talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
to our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits.
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary Dog.
Pearson and Blurnsball.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the bad guy, Mr. Mark Radulich, and your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified. I forgot who I was the past 2 times we did this, and then I forget who you were.
You called yourself the Heartbreak Kid the last 2 times. I've always been Big Sexy Harry Broadhurst. Hi, everybody.
You are, yes, that is in fact Big Sexy Harry Broadhurst. There it is. But yeah, I was calling myself the Heartbreak Kid, and I'm like, no, that's not who the outsiders were. It was Razor Ramon and Diesel. So I'm like, I got to remember that I'm the bad guy. Which, considering our individual takes on professional wrestling, I think that is more suiting to my personality than the Heartbreak Kid. I'm not breaking any hearts these days.
Yeah, but you definitely got some bad takes.
Okay. All right. So tonight on the agenda, yet another show from last weekend's WrestleMania weekend, GCW collective show. Joey Janela Spring Break 6, which was broken up into nights 1 and 2. So before we jump into it, Harry, how many of these spring breaks have you seen?
Every single one of them.
Why do you think... I was reading up on this today. I actually have the Wikipedia page up now. I was doing a little bit of research before we started the show tonight. Of all of the various kinds of independent wrestling shows and the 97 shows that GCW does, especially around WrestleMania weekend, this one in particular, Joey Janela's Spring Break, for whatever reason, caught fire and has become like the go-to event whenever they do the collective. What more so than, I mean, like, not counting Effy's Big Gay Brunch or Bloodsport, which are very, very niche and obviously have their own audiences. But of all the different kinds of shows that GCW puts out, why did this one in particular leap ahead of the pack?
Okay, so I want you to repeat that last sentence you just said. Of all the what GCW shows?
Of all the different?
There's your answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so different from your traditional independent wrestling show.
So tell me why it's different.
You get all of the nostalgia pieces from your childhood while still getting to mix in that blend of up-and-coming stars, as well as those guys that have already made it. I mean, look at the first night that we're about to cover right here. Names like X-Pac, names like John Moxley, names like the Briscoe brothers. And then you combine that with names like Nick Wayne, who's a 17-year-old kid who's been tearing it up. Names like Alley Catch, who's had the opportunity to break out over the course of the last couple of years due to GCW. Names
by the way, Alley Catch knew one half of the new tag team champions in GCW.
I was just going to say that she won the belts at Paranoid last night.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I hear what you're saying, and that goes along with what the Wikipedia said too. I find that funny because I feel like a lot of wrestlers from days past show up in independent shows. It's funny that this one, it seems to be known for it, but it's not like, you know, ever since we started even doing this, like Brian Cage showed up at XPW, Osprey showed up at Hog. Like people show up at these different independent shows all the time. So I'm amused by that this one gets extra special attention.
Well, I think a lot of that also has to do with the staying power of it too, and the fact that this is the 6th edition. Janela's had his influence all over Game Changer Wrestling since its inception, back when it made the change from Jersey Championship Wrestling over to Game Changer Wrestling, and especially with the taking of the promotion as a national touring brand by Brett Lauderdale.
Why do you think Joey Janela, more so than some of the other independent guys, has gotten as popular as he has? He's not a big guy. His wrestling's not especially great. I think when he showed up at All In, he had a fun look to him, but the more I saw him in AEW, the less that look impressed me. So I'm curious, you know, in addition to the event itself, why do you think Joey Janela resonates with people other than Jim Cornette?
One simple word: charisma.
You think he's got it, huh?
There's a natural there's a natural it factor that draws people to him. And it goes back even to when I take you back to the Tournament of Survival bump that he took off of the roof. And that's the kind of the bump that put him into the public perception. He has that personality, and then even more so back when he was still with Penelope Ford, and then they were Janelope, and they were playing off of each other. You got that personality, you got that it factor, you got that charisma, you got that vibe that similar promotions are trying for, like AEW with Sammy and Ty, and it doesn't work for them.
The one thing, we can move on after this, but the one thing that stands out to me with Joey Janela is, you know, like I said, people who listen to the shows or other wrestling shows know I listen to Jim Cornette. Don't always agree with him, but I like a lot of what he says, and I do find his opinions to at least be conversation pieces.
I actually caught most of his WrestleMania review, so
yeah, I'm in the middle of that now. And you know, he doesn't like Joey Janela at all for a variety of reasons. And this is where, like, I see Jim Cornette's point, but I don't take wrestling as seriously as Jim Cornette does, so this kind of crap doesn't really offend me. But shortly after into the pandemic, they did
the social distancing match.
Yeah, I was just getting to that. The him and a different
Jimmy
Lloyd did the turn your notifications off. You're driving me nuts.
Sorry. I forgot. I restarted the computer and it turned the notifications back on. My bad. Sorry, everybody. There you go. We're good.
I had to yell at Pat last week too. So it's like, you guys, my wife, for God's sakes, talk to me. Pay attention to me, Harry Broadhurst. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, shortly into the pandemic, him and Jimmy Lloyd did that social distancing match. It was the stupidest thing ever. But I do like a fair amount of stupid in my wrestling. And we'll get to it when we get to, I think it's when he does it in the clusterfuck.
The clusterfuck next on night 2, yeah.
Yeah, there is a sufficient amount of winking at the crowd that Joey Janela does. And I feel like it's more winking than anybody else in independent wrestling, possibly in wrestling at large. I don't quite think anybody winks at the crowd as much as Joey Janela does.
It's that fourth wall that you're in on the joke.
Yeah. There was another one they did, I want to say, in Atlantic City. They did it on the boardwalk where he wrestled the Japanese doll.
Oh, Kyoko.
Yeah. I want to say it was him who wrestled the doll, and he fucking punted that thing. Did you see that?
I did not, but I do remember the one where, who was it? Was it Ibushi took a series of rolling Canadian destroyers from the doll?
He did. Yeah, yep.
I could see Cornette's head exploding from here with that one.
I'll tell you what, when he seems to have he'll never forgive Kenny Omega for doing it for whatever his reasons are. But I think at this point with Kenny Omega, there's so much about him that he doesn't like. The doll thing is just one of those things. But I've heard Jim Cornette say, and then we got to move on, about the doll. It was like, I don't care what they do in Japan. When you bring that shit to America and do it, that's the problem that I have. And I guess because they've done the doll thing in America, Jim Cornette's like, nope, you've ruined wrestling. I can't live with myself. For whatever, for how much that's worth. What are you doing with your fingers? World's
smallest violin.
Again, you don't have to agree with the man. He's stating an opinion. He's entitled. So, speaking of entitled, Joey Janela Spring Break, night 1. Which took place on March 31st, 2022. We have the opening bout where we have the GCW tag titles up for grabs. We have the Briscoes versus
Are you trying to use my document?
I'm trying to use your document.
Matthew Justice and Mance Warner of the Second Gear Crew.
Right.
Nick Gage, and it was supposed to be Matt Tremont. Tremont was unable to participate, therefore his partner for the evening was Slade.
Right. Who shows up later on in the event.
Correct.
And the Briscoes win when Jay pins Slade at 11 minutes and 19 seconds. This was a hot opener. Dude, the Briscoes had quite the weekend. They had a great match with FTR.
I have not gotten to that match yet, but I've heard very good things.
Yeah, the whole Ring of Honor show was pretty good. And then they had a real banger here with I just say Nick Gage got fat. Like, Nick Gage was not exactly Lex Luger, but like he looks more out of shape now than he ever has.
He is just coming back from a knee injury too, though. Remember, he partially tore his ACL. He's been wrestling with a partially torn ACL for a while.
If what you're saying is, hey, he rushed back after, and he might not have been in shape, which is fine, but it was a very quick recovery, a very quick recovery period, and not enough time to slim down a bit. That's fine. That's my observation though. It's just funny. I watched this with a friend of mine who didn't know that this existed, but likes the bloody wrestling. Dude, the pizza cutter stuff with him and Slade that looked like they were going to just scalp. Oh God, who was it? Mance Warner. Poor Mance Warner in that match. My God.
That's what Manser does, though. Manser loves that deathmatch stuff. Nothing.
You're breaking up. You're in and out.
Oh, my internet's giving me issues. Can we hiatus or is we're live?
Can't pause on StreamYard.
Okay, well in that case, hopefully it comes back because apparently Spectrum hates me and has for a while.
Okay, what were you
is
saying
it better
about Mance
Warner? Now?
A little bit better, yes.
He's been a deathmatch guy for a while, though, so I mean, Mance kind of knew what he was getting into.
Yeah, I really like this match. I think the Briscoes did a hell of a. I think the Briscoes did a hell of a job being glue that kept this all together. The crowd was all as they are always was into Nick Gage. He is like the folk hero of that crew, and Matthew Justice and Mance Warner. They were there to take a beating, and boy did they get one. So good match. Next match was Blake Christian against AR Fox. They pinned him with the Golden Trident, which is Sister Abigail DDT at 12 minutes and 37 seconds. Again, the friend that I watched this with, she was into the super athleticism of AR Fox. This was a lot of false finishes. This was definitely one of those flippity-doo, super gymnast athletic type matches. And it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but she really, really liked it. And she got a kick out of just how athletic both of these guys were, and how many times they went into a false finish. And, she thought the match was going to end like 10 different times before it finally did.
Yeah, I think that's an issue in match number 2 on the card, though. Mm-hmm. Running this many kickouts this early in the show is going to burn out a crowd. I like both guys. I've been a huge fan of AR Fox's for years, going back to when he was in Evolve and Dragon Gate USA as the whole Foxen show. And then that's a real sentence. You heard it correctly.
No, I'm with you.
And Blake Christian, of course, is just coming off of his WWE run on NXT as Trey Baxter.
Okay.
So he's somebody that has a little bit of buzz behind him and then has just been starting to make his way back into the independent scene once again following his release because he was part of the crew that got chopped when Triple H went out on hiatus or whatever. Right. So Christian's one of those guys too. Blake Christian is super young. The kid is like 24, 25 years old. Mm-hmm. So he's somebody that puts on a little bit of size. You could see him coming back in like that Seth Rollins and like that John Moxley role inside of one of the major companies because he's a guy that has a ton of charisma. He's a guy that has a connection with the fans, all heart Blake Christian, and he's somebody that can put on performance after performance that you could build a resume off of.
Yep, I think he just needs to slow down a little bit.
I agree.
I think this is one of those guys that Cornette looks at and he's like, "You're doing too much, too fast, too often.
God damn, knock it off."
But again, because it's Cornette, everyone shits on it. But like when he makes a valid point, I'm going to say so. And one of the things Cornette talks about with a lot of these indie guys is when you do too much too fast. You said it yourself before you had a sort of an allergic reaction to the name Jim Cornette. You were like, you're going to burn out a crowd doing that, and that is really all the man ever says about it.
No, I agree. I do agree with Cornette on this one. I think that this was far too many high spots, far too many falsies for what amounted to match number 2 of a 9-match weekend for the series of GCW shows.
Think about like The Rock, Steve Austin, WrestleMania 15. Like that was shit tons of kickouts and false finishes. Like that's what that match is known for.
But to be fair for WrestleMania 15, though, the rest of that card is dog shit. So they needed something in order to bring that card back.
That's what I'm saying. But imagine you put that match on You imagine you put Blake Christian versus AR Fox on WrestleMania 15, and then you try to do that. Then you try to do that main event. Like, it's not going to work for that very reason. Is my point.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the highlight of this wasn't my favorite match, but definitely the highlight match. This was the crowd favorite match. Mickie James pins poor Alley Catch with the Mickey DDT at 11 minutes and 17 seconds. And I love this match. This first of all, the dueling grab him in the pussy maneuver. I thought that was fantastic. The old Trump special. And but even better, and I love professional wrestling. I was actually thinking about this all weekend. I love that in professional wrestling, if you kiss somebody, it's like you punched him in the nose. Like, I can't remember who kissed who, if it was Mickie James who kissed Alley Catch or the other way around. Doesn't really matter. But like it was Mickie James who kissed Alley because she's the one that had to like then feign being stunned. Like you could like it was like a cartoon swoon kind of a deal where like hearts came out and she was like falling over herself and then Mickey hit the DDT.
Well, if you think about this, though, it's perfect psychology for this particular match and the buildup behind it there. That Allie tried to play that almost stalker role that Mickey played to Trish back at WrestleMania 23. This was the kiss, and then the Mickey DT was Mickey turning that on Allie and using it directly into the finish. It's fantastic psychology. And the fact that it's two relatively attractive women kissing is not a bad thing either.
No. I wasn't against it.
Just real quick, how the hell does Mickey still look that good at 42 years old? God damn.
I mean, you take care of your body. Look, like I'm going to be 46 in June.
You don't look a day over 60.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like when you don't take care of yourself and you go through successive bouts of chemo and COVID and you get a broken jaw all within a 5-year period, you'll look like this. However, if you hit the gym and you take care of yourself and you moisturize, you'll look like Mickie James.
Mickie James.
Anyway, I'm really surprised. I wanted to get your take on this. I'm really surprised they didn't put Alley Catch over here. Like you bring a veteran in, maybe put the new younger talent over the veteran. And it was one of those deals where it was like a Tommy Dreamer kind of thing. Like, it's my honor to lose to you. Or, and hear me out on this, maybe use this as an opportunity to put yourself up, over the veteran whose best days are behind them. Just saying.
Well, I think this is going to be a situation like we talked about when we did World on GCW with Jeff Jarrett and Effy. I don't think this is a one and done. I think they're going to end up running this back.
Oh, maybe we'll see Mickey and the last rider, Jeff Jarrett, versus Bussy.
Entirely possible.
Yep. Hey, listen, there's no reason not to do it. GCW only does 500 shows a year. Maybe one of them will get that.
The goddamn truth.
Well,
Jesus.
We could have done just a series on GCW reviews. Like, it's that bad, and there's that much content.
Well, look at the collective here, too. Like, the fact that we're dedicating 4 episodes of the Indysiders to the collective here between Big Gay Brunch, Joey Janela here, Bloodsport and For the Culture with our next episode, and then our best of the rest of the collective episode.
Right. Yeah, and that's just that weekend. I mean, but they don't necessarily run 4 shows in a day though. But they do. But they might run 4 shows in a weekend. Just 4 days consecutively.
They got a double shot this weekend as we're recording this. Last night was Paranoid. Paranoid. Tonight is in Devil in a Red Dress. I think the show is called.
Yeah, this is one where like if you're really into GCW and you don't watch much of anything else, it's fine to spend the money on it and stay up on it. I could not do it.
They need a season pass is what they need.
I think you can get something of a season pass through the Fight app, but it's not GCW specific.
No, the season pass is more of like the Triller stuff, I think. With the boxing and the verses and all that crap.
Yeah, I'd have to look. Next one, there was a 7-way scramble. Can I ask why they don't do more with Jimmy Lloyd? Jimmy Lloyd's one of these like GCW regulars, but he's always in like scrambles or multi-man matches. Like, how does this guy not get a bigger push being such a focal point of GCW?
The only time you really see him as an individual is on the deathmatch shows, and I think that's a missed opportunity because we talked about Joey Janela having that it factor. Jimmy Lloyd has that it factor as well. I mean, after all, you're fucking with a different boy.
That's right. Yeah, Jimmy Lloyd has kind of that like abyss quality to him, where like I could see him like he seems like the champion of the incels, which is not a bad thing. Like I think there's a sliver of the crowd that absolutely looked at Jimmy Lloyd and goes, "He's fighting for me. He stands for me. Why not do more with him then?" Jimmy fucking Lloyd. Jimmy fucking Lloyd. Yes.
It's very catchy.
Yes, it is. He's a
Did
different
you know
kind
he
of boy, Jimmy Lloyd.
Did you know he actually got his own series of individual personalized shows from GCW Past?
I know when I first started paying attention to this, he had like Jimmy Lloyd's like Halloween show or whatever it was called. That's all I can remember. I think he might have done a Christmas one too.
He did a Christmas one because that's on IWTV. We could cover that at some point if you want to.
Sure.
He also did a show at last year's collective called Jimmy Lloyd's Degeneration F.
That's right. I do remember that. Yeah. GCW always comes up with such funny names. And like really cool looking posters to the point where like I want to watch them, and then I remember that's another night I have to dedicate to wrestling that I don't want to. So yeah, you could spend your life watching, like I said, GCW stuff. Anyway, Nick Wayne won the 7-way scramble, pinning a different boy, Jimmy Lloyd, with an SB cutter. Who else?
Springboard cutter.
The springboard cutter. Who else was it? Maybe type it out next time.
I told you before that SB stands for springboard.
Do you think I remember shit from one week to the next? You were sadly mistaken.
All right, I'll start typing out springboard. And to answer your question, as far as the other 5 participants in this match, you might want to pull up Cage Match. I know Ninja Mac was in the match.
Dude, Ninja Mac was all over the place this weekend. He was on Ring of Honor. He was all over the collective.
He really was. All right, if you give me a second, I'll pull up the Cage Match.
No, you just talk about the match. I will do it.
All right. Let's talk specifically about Nick Wayne, shall we?
Let's talk about it.
Do you remember Buddy Wayne, the old guy from the Portland territory? He was briefly in WWE as well. If you remember Larry Sweeney was
I remember Larry Sweeney because he was an XPW guy. Nick Wayne, Jordan Oliver, Jimmy Lloyd, Gringo Loco, Alec Price, Jack Cartwheel is my new favorite wrestler. Holy cow!
Is it all the cartwheels?
That, but like just how like Jack but super athletic he is. I was getting a kick out of Jack Cartwheel.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Pac.
Yeah. I don't know how much taller or how much smaller he is than good old Pac, but
I do appreciate the East Coast Ace, Jordan Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of those guys that was originally in the stable known as Young Dumb.
They were chanting that during the Clusterfuck, Young Dumb and Broke.
Yeah, because it was Jordan Oliver, Charlie Tagger, Ellis Taylor, and there's a 4th member whose name escapes me at the current moment.
Okay. So what do you think of I barely remember the 7-way scramble. The fact that my talking point on this is poor Jimmy Lloyd, why he's always in these multi-man clusterfucks, it tells you how much I thought of that match. And I think coming off the Blake Christian match and then coming off like the tag team, like I feel like after a while this stuff just sort of runs together.
This is the start of something big for Nick Wayne and GCW.
Okay. Oh, Nick Wayne's a 17-year-old kid, right?
Yeah, Nick Wayne is the 17-year-old that just signed a developmental deal with AEW.
Oh, okay, cool.
Darby Allin came out and offered him an AEW contract at a Defy Wrestling show.
Oh, okay.
So Wayne's got potential, but he can't get booked in Florida because Florida has an age restriction. You have to be 18 to wrestle in Florida, which is where AEW is based. So he can't work for AEW until he's 18.
Okay, makes sense. Again, what do you think of the match itself?
Match itself was pretty good. I mean, it goes back to that earlier match we had between Christian and AR Fox, though, where there's a lot of stuff happening a mile a minute.
Yeah.
The good news is between this match and the Christian Fox match, nothing outright obviously blown. So I think that makes matches like these a little bit easier to digest when they're not like super clunky spot fest, when everything's hitting crisp.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The next match, old as fuck, X-Pac.
46 now.
Oh, you want to talk about again, when one does not age well, you could either be Mickey James or you could be X-Pac. My God.
Is it weird that every time he went to do that, I was worried he's going to break a hip?
No, not at all. So Joey Janela in the Razor gear, which you messaged me online, that pissed you off, and I don't know why.
No, it did not piss me off. Okay. I popped for it. I thought that was slick as shit. Not to mention it's a slap in the face to X-Pac too. given the fact that Hall was one of his best friends.
It didn't come across to me like a dig though. It seemed like Joey Janela was sort of honoring Razor. I mean, maybe it's a bit of a dig at X-Pac, but like he wasn't digging at Razor Ramon.
No, it was to honor Scott, but it was an in your face to Waltman.
Sure. Anyway, Joey Janela, whose wrestling does not tremendously impress me. His charisma and his antics crack me up, but actually watching him wrestle is a bit of a chore here. And X-Pac did his best, but he had a super kick in almost 20 minutes. Yeah, this went on forever, this match. And it was, I know this is like his event and all, but I feel like Joey Janela got a little full of himself here.
Janela is best kept to 10 to 15-minute intervals.
I'm going to go with 10.
Give him time to get in, get his shtick in, and get out.
Yeah.
You try to stretch out a Janela match like this, you're going to expose the fact that while Janela's entertaining, he's not an especially great wrestler. I love the finish with Janela suckering X-Pac into the knee to the balls and then the super kick for the finish.
All right. All right. So this wasn't my favorite match of the night, but this one was really, really good. And this one, my friend and I were just hooting and hollering at the TV. This was for the GCW heavyweight title. Jon Moxley pinned AJ Gray with a Death Rider on the broken tube stack at 22 minutes and 14 seconds. I know we've talked about this before because we did two deathmatch-ish shows in January. But I do, and I was pointing this out to my friend who was watching. I always love the fact that when they do the stack of light tubes, the person has to hold them in place. Like the person taking, like you're supposed to be, the person's supposed to be prone, and you're piling stuff on top of them so that when you jump on it, it'll shatter all over them and cut them. Except that the person is now having to hold them in place so they don't roll off of them because they're all like big fatties or whatever. You know, they're not flat tables.
Well, I think that has to do with the fact that you don't want to have like an accidental tube puncturing the side of your ribs or something.
I get that, but Harry, if you and I are in a fight, and you're not going to be like, hold this. Okay.
I get what you're saying about the suspension of disbelief being lifted there, but
it really does break like stretch credulity.
Okay, but for me, I would rather have the vision of safety rather than the suspension of disbelief.
I've accepted it as part of the deathmatch culture, considering they do it in every match and everyone does it. I have to point out how stupid it is.
Let me ask you this: were you surprised that Moxley retained?
No, because I think Jon Moxley brings a lot of casual eyeballs to GCW that wouldn't normally watch.
I agree. And I don't think AJ Gray is a credible heavyweight champion.
I don't think anyone knows who the hell AJ Gray is outside of niche wrestling circles.
He won the brass ring match at World on GCW, but we talked about what a clusterfuck that ladder match was.
But that's my point. Like outside of the GCW bubble, do people know who AJ Gray is? So like AJ Gray is somebody who, if you want to make a star out of him, that's fine, but you got to bring him along a little bit more than this. You got to get, he's got to get out there and get more exposure. He can't just do it in GCW.
This seemed rushed rather than because they gave him the win at the World on GCW in the brass ring match, but it feels like the title match was rushed because you were missing that step A to step B in between in order to make AJ Gray seem like a credible threat to Moxley's championship. At no point in this match did I think Gray was winning the title.
No, but again, Jon Moxley lends, despite Jim Cornette's opinion of Jon Moxley lends value to GCW. Like if big time WWE star John, modern day. Like this isn't X-Pac, this isn't Jeff Jarrett, this isn't Mickey James. People who are like past their prime. This is in prime Jon Moxley, formerly of the Shield and Dean Ambrose, coming to GCW. Like they should keep the title on him for as long as possible.
Back in arguably the best shape of his career in the process.
Yes. Hooray for rehab. But my favorite match of this, and your main event of night one of Joey Janela Spring Break, John Wayne Murdoch. Dude, John Wayne Murdoch looks like every beer drinking dad. But is he not the best modern day deathmatch wrestler going right now? He has such flow to him, which is a weird thing to say about a deathmatch guy. But like he comes across as almost nonchalantly violent. It's so, and then you put him with Alex Colon, who's like one of my other favorite deathmatch guys, where he's just so like directly vicious and comes at you with everything. You put these two together, and this was gross in all the right ways.
And this is one of those matches that the casual fan might not know, but somebody like us that follows GCW will know. These two have quite the history in GCW. And for as much as I bag on Kevin Gill, I am not a Kevin Gill fan. But he perfectly told the story of these two in GCW past. And the fact is that there was a time where John Wayne Murdoch was untrustworthy. There was a time where John Wayne Murdoch was very much way too into the gimmick, into the partying, into the lifestyle to be qualified to be a deathmatch wrestler, because you're putting your life in other people's hands in deathmatch wrestling, literally.
Was this the match? Am I remembering this right? Was this the where Alex Colon looked like he legit hurt his arm, and I thought they were gonna have to call the end of the match?
The one where he busted up his elbow really, really deep. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how legitimate that injury was or how much, because here's the thing. While that's happening, and if he legit injured himself, but John Wayne Murdoch's like, I gotta sell it, they convinced me, because I thought John Wayne Murdoch was legitimately trying to get at Alex Colon. I
think they turned it into the story of the finish, because you had the barbed wire bat shot by Murdoch right into the cross arm breaker for the finish at 13 minutes and 55 seconds.
I love John Wayne Murdoch. I'll watch, if I don't watch any other death matches, I'll watch his.
Him and Reed Bentley are my two favorite deathmatch guys on the independents right now.
You don't like Akira?
Not sold on Akira, not sold on Nolan Edward. Who's the other guy from ICW that I like?
I like the guy who always wears the hat backwards. He's a bit on the shorter side. He's part of that 440 crew.
Eric Ryan?
Eric Ryan, yeah. Eric Ryan also is very snappy when he wrestles. He's very crisp.
And you know who's surprisingly good at the deathmatch stuff, even though he hasn't been doing it long, is Bobby Beverly of 440 as well.
Oh, is he the one that looks like a truck
the
driver?
Bev. No, that I think that's Eddie Only.
Eddie, you're right. That is Eddie Only. Sorry, nobody beats Schlack. Schlack is the best.
If you want to talk Schlack, then we're gonna have to sit through 6 hours of California.
Anyway, we'll talk later. I don't know if I can do that. I'm telling you that's on the verge of being canceled right now. I'm going through my schedule. I'm canceling a lot of stuff. I'm dealing with some personal stuff going on, so I have to start clearing up some days where I can't record, which is why I moved a lot of stuff to Monday nights. And I'm just Monday nights are good recording nights for me. Tuesday nights are good recording nights. I can't do a lot of stuff on the weekends right now. Point being, that entire show might get canceled because I'm not doing a 6-hour watch. Sorry. I like XPW and all, but no.
I sent XPW management a message asking if there was going to be an edited cut released.
Okay, well, to be continued then. Anyway, for the ultra-violent title, John Wayne tapped Alex Colon with a cross-arm breaker at 13:55. Dude, this was fucking dope. And my friend that watched it with me, like I said, she's into the blood in the guts, and she'd never seen anything like this before. Like when I told her what deathmatch wrestling was, because she knew WWE, right? Also, because she's part of the LGBTQ community, I told her about Effy's Big Gay Brunch, and she went home and told one of her friends about it. Apparently, we're spreading the message now. You and me, we are spreading the message of Effy's Big Gay Brunch, getting all the people that don't know to know.
Maybe we'll get Effy to send you that wrestling is gay shirt after all.
I hope so. Well, my Jason Teasley, friend of the show, your former kickoff partner, sent me a picture that Effy's on Cameo. Hey, folks, my birthday is June 2nd. Just saying. I would not be opposed to a cameo from Effy.
Subtle.
Not at all. Anyway, night one was easily, and I could have just been happy with this show. We didn't need a second night. This was 7 matches, ending with John Wayne Murdoch nearly killing Alex Colon. It was a hoot. Really, I loved it. And I think night one, I have almost, other than maybe the scramble, which just seemed superfluous. What? I think it was a solid night of wrestling. I really liked night one. What did you think overall?
Yeah, of the two, I definitely think night one was the better of the two shows, but we'll talk about the clusterfuck here in a few seconds with night two. And overall, night one was basically the traditional super indie show that you come to expect from Spring Break.
This was right up there with the world, this was quality.
It kind of reminded me in a sense of like a PWG show as well.
Mm.
Like, it's go out there, get your shit in, pop the crowd, keep these people entertained, and don't worry about who has to follow you, because if they have to follow you, good luck to them.
Yeah. No, I like some of these are a bit of a chore to get through. You know, I'm usually watching them all like half distracted because I had a friend over to watch who was like intently watching. I was intently watching, and I was like, wow, I'm really glad I actually paid attention to this one because this was really, really good. Speaking of paying attention, one of our great sponsors here is Grammarly. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and anywhere else that you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. And now we move on to Spring Break Night 2, which took place on April. You wrote here April 2nd. I actually think it was April 1st, but it went overnight.
April 2nd, because it started at 12:59 Eastern Daylight.
Yeah, it was like a weird time, but it was whatever.
Midnight local, but 1 a.m. East Coast. So I put April 2nd.
Fair enough. And it started off with Joey Janela doing the Vince McMahon pre-NWO promo. If you'll remember, I think it was at the end of the Royal Rumble because they showed up at No Way Out.
On SmackDown, he spun around and revealed the NWO logo on his chair in his office.
Right, and that's when he delivered. This was when he was feuding with Ric Flair. So
correct.
Okay, I remember this now. It was Survivor Series happens. That ends the invasion. The next night on Raw, Vince is crowing. Ric Flair shows up. He's like, I own half the company, and at which point Vince is pulling on his ear. This leads into the Rumble. Yada, yada, yada.
Flair beats Vince at the Rumble. It sends Vince into a spiral, which leads to Vince bringing in the NWO.
Right. He needs to inject SmackDown with a lethal dose of poison or some shit is what he said.
Inject the WWF. The brand split hadn't quite happened yet, but yes.
So Joey Janela, sitting on a fountain somewhere in Dallas, presumably, does the Vince promo. And then he starts talking about, like, no one brings me flowers anymore. Which would have been great if they'd actually used the song, but I digress. You want to fill me in here what the point of all of this was?
Okay. Do you know what the phrase giving someone their flowers means?
No, I was taking him quite literally.
Okay. The phrase giving someone their flowers is paying them the respect that they're due.
Okay.
It's one of the things that was like really big when Big E won the championship, because you remember Kofi and Xavier talking about giving Big E his flowers.
No, but go ahead.
Take your moment in the sun, take your spotlight, take your opportunity to be praised and to be admired for what you've accomplished. That is what Janela meant by bringing him his flowers.
I'm with
you. What he means by that, and Kevin Gill talked about this, is he used to be the benevolent Joey Janela, and now he's the malevolent Joey Janela, out to destroy his creation.
And why does he want to destroy Spring Break?
Because he feels that Spring Break is no longer about Joey Janela, and it should be. Okay.
He feels like the spotlight is on, the
other people rather than him. Yes, exactly. Okay. It's an ego trip.
Okay. Is this part of another story, or did he just wake up one morning and go, okay, so what's the story?
The story here is that Janela is trying to take back Game Changer now that he's no longer with AEW.
Okay. And then they've been doing this on other shows?
Yes.
Moving on.
Goes back to the Major Brothers match where it was Janela and X-Pac against Cardona and Myers.
Okay.
Janela and X-Pac win the match, and the fans are chanting for X-Pac after the match, and that's when Janela turned on X-Pac.
Makes sense. Well, we opened up with one of my favorite wrestlers in the indie scene, the Dirty Daddy, Chris Dickinson.
The Filthy Father, the Putrid Papa.
Taking on Matt Cardona and the effervescent Chelsea Green.
Do you remember who was with the Dirty Daddy?
Yeah, Missy Hyatt.
Can I just point out that Missy did jack fucking shit?
Yeah, I mean, Missy Hyatt, mostly known for her tits. I don't know what you want her to do.
Anything besides standing at ringside and doing nothing.
We're talking about also, you ageist. She's like 97 years old, the poor woman.
I don't want her to take a bump or anything, but just standing. How do I put this politely? Standing at ringside looking like a whore isn't going to do anything.
I mean, I think you're disparaging whores now.
How dare I defame the good goddamn name of whores?
Yeah, I listen. Without whores, what a terrible world this would be. A lot of lonely men out there, or a lot of men who can't keep their fucking marriages together, who go seeking whores elsewhere.
Forgive me for this in advance. What's the difference between a whore and a slut? Whore gets paid.
Wait for it. There we go.
There you go.
That's going to be great on audio where it takes like 10 minutes for me to get that sound going. At least here, the people are watching like, what's he going to do? All right.
Speaking of which, if you're listening to us on audio on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Podbean, CastBox, Overcast, Google Pods, Apple Pods, or rating and reviewing us for 5 stars on Spotify, we greatly appreciate you.
Thank you, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Chris Dickinson, the Dirty Daddy, pinned the Internet Wrestling Champion, the Belt Collector, Matt Cardona with a bazooka bomb.
Do you see this shit? He just got another belt.
Oh, did he really? What belt did he win now?
All-Star Wrestling. I don't know where it's based out of, but it's like 7 titles now. The 2 from AIW, NYWC, Impact Wrestling's Digital Media Championship, the Internet Championship, the ASW Championship, and then there's like another one too that he has that I don't remember what.
The best thing that could have happened to Matt Cardona was being cut from the WWE.
Absolutely agreed.
Yeah, this guy has turned lemons and made the world's best lemonade out of it. It's fantastic. I love watching him tweak like the internet wrestling fans' nipples. It's the funniest thing ever, and I'm here for it. This was a good match. I think Chris Dickinson. I like Chris Dickinson when he's more of a shooter. Like he's been in a couple of Bloodsports that were really good.
Do you remember how we talked about Nick Gage returning from injury?
Yeah,
Dickinson was doing the same in this very match, actually.
Yeah, but Dickinson didn't look fat.
You know, Dickinson's also been out for a lot longer than Gage had as well. So
maybe he took the time to actually get back in shape instead of just coming back as a fat ass.
If you didn't watch the pre-show for World on GCW, I did. Yeah. Dickinson showed up on the pre-show and said that he would be ready for spring break and he would see us all there.
And he certainly was, Ollie. He beat him and Matt Cardona had a really good match. I think Chelsea took a bump in this one because I think Matt had to carry her out. This was good. This night 2 started off hot, and coming off of night 1, I had a lot of high expectations. They were not met, but at least we started off good.
See, I was okay with everything until the main event on night 2.
We'll get there.
Yes.
Yeah, like the actual matches themselves on night 2 are great. When we get to the clusterfuck, by the end of it, I wanted to walk out in the middle of traffic, but I'll get there. Anyway, Dickinson, Matt Cardona, I really, really liked a lot. What'd you think?
I thought it was very good, and I think that they managed to stay in that sweet spot for Cardona as well, that 10 to 12 minute range.
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about Janela overstaying his welcome earlier. Cardona knows that his shtick is best in a certain interval, and going past it, it's going to get to the point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes, get in, get out, aggravate the crowd and run away. Old school heel heat. Tony Deppen, who I always thought was more, I don't know if fem's the right word, but like not quite like an Effy situation, but Tony Deppen always seemed to be like foppish almost, and then he would beat the shit out of you, and now he's kind of doing almost like a Chad Gable like shooter almost gimmick where he's like, you're gonna give Tony Deppen your respect, and it's like, dude, you were wearing booty shorts like a month ago, relax.
Okay, to be fair though, Deppen is a legitimate badass.
I'm not taking that away from him, but the character that he portrayed was, like I said, he was a bit foppish. He was a bit, dirty boy, and he would wear the booty shorts and he would wear like the crop top or whatever. And then he would run in there and beat the shit out of you, which I'm there for. Like now he's coming out there like fucking Kurt Angle.
I mean, to be fair though, look who he's in the ring with here at Spring Break Night 2 though.
Biff Busick.
The former Oni Lorcan.
Oh, that's who that was. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So that's one of those dudes who's going to bring the fucking fight, so you better bring it right back to him.
Well, they did. Tony Deppen and Biff Busick put on a clinic here. Tony Deppen pinned him with the basement knee strike at 11 minutes and 39 seconds. This was a great match. This was solid.
Okay, so what I mean by, for those of you that don't know, what I mean by a basement knee strike is the opponent is kneeling, and that green glass throws me every single fucking time.
Threw me too. I just fucking drooled all over myself. This is when my drinking problem started. Yeah.
The basement knee strike is it's basically a shining knee attack to a kneeling opponent.
Okay. Yeah, good match though, right?
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Tony Deppen, especially when he was part of Violence Unlimited and Ring of Honor towards its dying days as well. I think Tony Deppen would be somebody that Tony Khan would be very well served to get back involved with Ring of Honor in the reboot.
If the WWE weren't so interested in big athletes like Tony, there's no reason Tony Deppen couldn't be a solid hand in NXT.
I agree. You know who he reminds me of, actually? And you segued me perfectly for this. You know who he reminds me of?
Who do you remind you of?
Roderick Strong.
Yeah, I would love to see Roddy and Deppen go at it. All right, next match. This one I actually don't remember. Mike Bailey pins Jordan Oliver with the Flamingo Driver at just under 10 minutes. Refresh my memory here.
Okay, so this was the match that was supposed to be PCO versus Mike Bailey.
Okay.
PCO got pulled because he suffered a concussion at Multiverse of Matches for Impact Wrestling the night before.
He's also 100 years old.
And there's that too. Jordan Oliver is the guy known as the East Coast Ace. We talked about him a little bit earlier. The leader of Young, Dumb, and Broke. Right. Mike Bailey is the guy that does like the karate gimmick. You've seen him on Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
This was basically just the two of them trading stuff until Bailey hit the Flamingo Driver for the finish. The Flamingo Driver, if you don't recall, is that shoulder stacked Omega Driver, where like the cross-legged into the sit-out driver. So Bailey picks up the win here. Bailey had himself a busy weekend at the Collective too, so he was one of those guys that was putting in work at the Collective. Oliver is somebody who I think is super underrated, but in fairness, he's also really young, so he's only going to get better.
All right. In the best match of the entire second night show, this should have been the main event. This is by far, I don't know what you're shaking your head about. Dude, Minoru Suzuki, Death Grandpa, as he's been nicknamed.
Grandpa is a fantastic nickname.
That is the best. I want to be known as Death Grandpa when I get to be Minoru Suzuki aged. But yeah, Minoru Suzuki versus Effy. He pinned him with the cradle pile driver at 9 minutes and 10 seconds. Dude, Effy, I know I say this a lot. Like, take a drink every time I say someone's my favorite wrestler. But, like, take the best parts of Goldberg. Take the best parts of Goldust, but, you know, and put them with, like, you know, like a punk rock wrestler, you know, and somebody who's, like, just very much in your face about, like, the LGBTQ community is just not going anywhere, and we're not going to act a different way because it might make you uncomfortable. And, oh, by the way, we can take a beating. Like, Effy's great. I love watching, like, you brought up in the last show, like, gay wrestling, as if there's a different kind of wrestling. But the point that you were trying to get at, listening back to it, is that Effy does, like, very specifically, like, antagonistically, like, gay things in the match. And it's hilarious,
but almost cliche, which is my issue with it.
See,
Effy's
wrestling is not. I mean, it is, but it's not like high performance art here. But you're talking about like a lowbrow crowd.
No, I don't disagree with that. You're looking LCD here, lowest common denominator booking, and I don't disagree with you. But the point that I'm making about Effy here, and the point that I'm saying there is, Effy is actually a very good wrestler.
Yes.
When Effy doesn't stick to shtick.
Right.
When Effy actually puts in that work, like he put in the work for part of the match with Suzuki, but there was a lot of shtick in the match with Suzuki as well, which threw me off, which is why I didn't especially care for this match.
Here's the thing. No, I love this. But here's the thing. Like, John Moxley took on Suzuki, I believe it was last year, for New Japan. I think they like the New Japan American show.
Oh, the one in New Orleans, I think it was.
Maybe, yeah. And you can clearly see Suzuki's not, you know, this is not going to be Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, okay?
No, I agree.
The guy is older and slower, and he's doing more shtick. Like, if you see him and Moxley, they did a lot of shtick in their match. They did a lot of, like, just slapping each other around and stuff like that. And so I think, look, if Minoru Suzuki was clearly in on the gag, he knew he was who he was in there with. They knew this was not going to be, you know, like a shooter kind of a match. And it looked like whatever nonsense Effy was doing, the Suzuki was there for. And that's what I'm saying. It was like, was it like the best wrestled match? No. Was it the most entertaining? By far.
Well, okay. So to put this into perspective here, do you watch a ton of New Japan?
Here and there.
Does the name Toru Yano mean anything to you?
I've heard that name before.
Effy is kind of the American equivalent to Toru Yano for Minoru Suzuki. He's a very stick-heavy guy, but if you're able to adjust to his style of match, then you can have those styles mending instead of clashing like they have in the past with Suzuki and other people.
So much of the LGBTQ poly E&M community talks about like doms and femmes and doms and submissives rather. And it's so funny watching Effy wrestle because he very much does like a, you know, he very much does like, come on, dominate me already. And then you try to, and then like he actually will try to wrestle you. So like there's a lot of like, he's like provoking Suzuki through the first part of that match. And again, there's not a lot of wrestling going on there, but he was like, come on, you know, like there was a lot of like, come on, slap me. And then Suzuki hits him hard. Like he really put some spin on it. And Effy's like, ooh, more of that, please. And then he hits him back. And it's, I don't know. For me, that's more fun to watch. And the person I was watching it with thought that was a hoot than two skinny guys doing flippity doos for 20 minutes.
No, but my other issue with this match too is if this is one of the marquee promoted matches for Spring Break, why is it only going 9 minutes?
Because we needed to dedicate an hour and a half to the nonsense that came next.
Okay, that's fair because fuck this match. Jesus.
Oh my God. I've never hated a wrestling match so much in my life.
There have been previous clusterfucks that have been very good, actually.
Okay.
So let me start by saying that the clusterfuck is a Spring Break tradition.
Okay.
That being said, what did I time it at on the thing? An hour
and 22 minutes.
An hour 22?
Yeah.
And more to the point here, why the fuck is a group winning the clusterfuck?
Dude, there was so much wrong with this match. Like, let's just go through it. So you have Joey Janela who almost goes coast to coast, and then he gets eliminated towards the end. And you're like, wait, why?
Okay, actually, that I did like. And the reason I like that is because that sets up Joey Janela's next program with the previously mentioned Nick Wayne, because Nick Wayne was the one who eliminated Janela from the cluster.
That's fine, but then Nick Wayne should have won. Like, Nick Wayne should have been the one to eliminate Joey
I think
Janela.
eliminating Janela was enough of a rub for him to go forward into that program with Janela.
But the winners of the stupid thing were the second gear crew, why is a group winning this?
And see, I think that this would have been an opportunity to put some dissension in the second gear crew by having them have to battle out for the win of the cluster.
And hear me out, just put the 17-year-old over. Like, why? You're saying like it's enough, or he could have a little bit more, you know, or you could have that story where, you know, the second gear crew gets. Let me go back. So I read up on this, and I get that it's somewhat of a joke match. It's just
there's a lot of shtick, a lot of winking and nods.
So there's the Invisible Man in there, which the fact that they did the Invisible Man thing for as long as they did, actually, it was one of those like Family Guy things where I laughed at first, and then I groaned, and then it went on for so long I went back to laughing again.
Let's go to Ollie with the Invisible Man report. Ollie, he was there. Thanks, Ollie.
Thanks, Ollie. Good old Dark Sheik was in there again. She was in there for a while, as a matter of fact.
They did a lot of women participants in this match.
Oh, they had like an Avengers moment.
Yeah, they had like that full. I got it. They had that full on like 8-woman face off in the middle of the ring with all of them standing and glaring at each other, like Jazzy Yang and Dark Sheik and Trisha
like
Dora.
The girls get it done moment, which I laughed at.
Well, that was actually a callback to the third clusterfuck, which had a no contest because Janela refused to book any women for it, so they all came in and destroyed the ending of the match.
Yeah, they talked a little bit about that like this was
Prazak talked about it, and it made sense for Prazak to be the one to talk about it, given the fact of Prazak's involvement with women's wrestling in the United States. Let's not forget, Prazak is the proprietor of Shimmer.
So this is why I brought up the social distancing match, because Jimmy Lloyd walks out.
They do the callback, yes.
Yeah, and so he's like pretending that he has COVID, basically, because that's not tasteless at all. And they do the social distancing match in there, which, again, if you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you're like, this is dumb. But if you're like my friend who's just in for a good time and wants to be entertained, she cried watching that. She was laughing so hard.
If you're in on the joke, that bit is funny.
Right.
If you're not in on the joke, then it's eye-roll inducing. There is a quote from Mike Spillane, professionally known as Mike Quackenbush.
Yeah.
To those who get it, no explanation is necessary. To those who don't, no explanation will do.
This was entirely too long.
I agree.
People want it.
I agree.
I also didn't like the fact that you would lose people on camera for a while, like Dark Sheik being a really good example of this, to the point where I thought she was eliminated 2 and 3 times. But she would just disappear off camera, and then she'd come back. Like there was a bit where Joey Janela, they were smoking pot in the ring at one point, and Joey Janela had been gone for a while, and I thought he had been eliminated, but he wasn't. He just went in the back for a bit. Like, come on, either eliminate people or leave them somewhere in the vicinity of the ring. The fact that they can just fuck off and then come back to the match later. Like, who is this? Austin and McMahon? Like,
so I mean, it's a good comparison. You're not wrong.
Yeah, it was because here's the thing. I didn't know when I was watching. I know what it is now, but when I was watching it the first time, I didn't realize what this was. I also thought it was only going to be about 20 minutes to a half an hour, not an hour, almost an hour and a half. No,
the issue that I had wasn't necessarily some of the bits and stuff, some of the spots and stuff. I could have gotten over that. The issue that I had with this match was the length. Way too long.
Who is your favorite, like, goofy surprise? My favorite was the guy with the fake mask on in the overalls who couldn't figure out how to get in the ring.
Oh, Guy Steele?
Yeah. I kept waiting for that to be somebody else. I was like, come on, he's got to.
I'm sure there's I'm sure there's an unmasking coming in a future GCW show for that one. I gotta admit, I popped for Maven.
Yes, Maven came in, made an appearance, and promptly walked out again. Someone should have thrown him into a popcorn machine.
Speaking of Royal Rumble 2002.
Yes.
It was good to see him, and I've always been a big fan of Hoshel's Around the Stars, his theme song. So hearing the theme song again brought back a little bit of a nostalgia for me. Matthew Justice, AJ Gray, and Mance Warner survive at 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 41 seconds.
Here's the thing. Like, if 440 wins, fine. They were like, the heel group running roughshod over people. That made more sense. The group that came in at the end that was eliminated by the second gear crew, if they had won it,
LA Fights.
That would have made somewhat more sense. It would have had less of an impact. The fact that the second gear crew come in at the very end and then win the thing, I'm like, what was the point of the previous hour and 10 minutes then? Why did we even do this?
You're not wrong. I don't disagree. Like, by and large, I understand the joke of the clusterfuck.
Yeah.
But the finishing for it, Joey Janela said he wants to destroy the clusterfuck. Well, the booking almost managed to succeed there, Joey.
Yeah, that second, like I said, the story of these shows, and even let me go back. Everything up through Minoru Suzuki versus Effy was fantastic. Like, I legitimately enjoyed both nights.
Good to great.
The clusterfuck, like, you ever just miss a question on a test and it brings your whole average down because it's like a 10-point question or whatever? That's what this was. Like, you managed to ruin night 2 with the clusterfuck, and you kind of took away from 1. That's how bad this is.
Like, I would give night 1 like a 9. Basically, because there's something for everybody on that show. Night 2 is like a 7, and the reason it's a 7 is because the clusterfuck drags it down a good point and a half.
Yeah, no, like I said, up until the clusterfuck, I was really, really enjoying it. Like, it was a solid night of wrestling. I get you're going to get some goofy shit with GCW, but for the most part, everyone was there and taking it seriously, and it wasn't too off the beaten path. And then you get to this clusterfuck, and you're like, oh, we're going to be clowns again. Got it. Yay.
And the problem, and we'll move on from here. The other issue that I have is there were so many people made to look ridiculous in this match that are big parts of GCW. And I have that issue. We have that issue as wrestling fans when it happens on mainstream. Why are we giving the independents a pass on that?
Yeah.
Why would we give the independents a pass on? Oh, this guy's a huge deal here. Well, guess what? You get to look like a fucking douche, as Pat Patterson would say.
What do you think of the entrance music throughout all of this?
I always appreciate the fact that they use actual licensed songs. I know what your favorite song used on this show was.
What was my favorite song?
Goodbye Yellow Brick Road for Effy.
Of course. And you can find Goodbye Yellow Brick Road on Amazon Music Unlimited. And did you know Harry Broadhurst of the Broadhurst and Watkins Sports Report? Why did you guys name it that?
So BWSR, sports in black and white.
Oh, okay. See, I would have just stayed with the kickoff.
The kickoff is a multi-person show. BWSR is just me and Eric.
It is whatever you say it is. And I would have, and because I am a simple branding man, would have just kept it like Chris Bailey made this argument to me too. He was like, we should just do our own Posman show. I'm like, how about you keep to the formats I've already done? I don't want to create 50 shows. You know, you did the same thing. Like, we should just do our separate Indysider thing. No, it's a TV party. Fuck off. Because I'm only making
Indysiders should have been its own deal. I'm just saying.
I'm doing this whole thing on David Simon. Those are all TV parties too, but within that column, they're individualized.
But did you know you could listen to the Indysiders as a part of TV Party tonight on Amazon Music?
You can, Harry Broadhurst of the Screaming Boy podcast. If you click the link in the description of this show at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network, you can get a free 30-day trial of Amazon Music Unlimited. Make sure you complete the sign-up process. If you like it, you can keep it. Just pay the fee each month, which is comparative to Spotify.
It's like $10 a month.
Yeah, or you can cancel it. No fuss, no muss, no contract. So that is it for Joey Janela's Spring Break.
You didn't give me an answer to your rating for the show. What did you think of the two shows?
I'm in agreement that night one is probably like an 8 or 9 for me.
Yeah.
Night 2 would be higher if it wasn't for the stupid actual clusterfuck. So I'm gonna say it's a 5. It bothered me that much.
You know who else was never a big fan of the clusterfuck? Larry Zonka, rest his soul.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Like,
Zonka hated the clusterfuck.
Larry could only take so much of the nonsense before he was like, this is a giant waste of my time. Anyway, so the next, we're going to be changing the date that we record these. We're going to be moving them to Mondays at 11. So I'll be doing double duties. I'll be doing either a TV party or an on trial or something at 9 o'clock. And then we'll try to keep it to an hour. And then Harry and I will reset and we'll do an 11 o'clock recording for these Indysider shows. The next one will be Bloodsport and For the Culture from the Collective 2022. And that's going to be May 2nd. And then May 9th, we'll be doing the Best of the Collective. We'll select our favorite matches from each one of the cards, just kind of go back and forth. Then we skip a week and we're back. We'll do something on the 23rd. It may be XPW California. It may not be.
Definitely going to be Freelance Thrash Unreal, though.
Yeah. We'll see what else. By the time we get to the end of May, we'll see what else has occurred out there that we might want to talk about. Because if I have to watch a 6-hour fucking wrestling show, I'm not watching a 6-hour wrestling show.
If more specifically, if we have to watch a 6-hour wrestling show, it's not going to be XPW.
Yeah. All right. This week on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, tomorrow we have a re-airing of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Jesse's got an Unspoken Issues coming out for Cosmic Carnage, and myself and Ronnie Adams will be reviewing Ambulance, the new Michael Bay movie that nobody saw.
It looks really good.
I really enjoyed it. Apparently nobody bothered to go see it, and that's okay, because in about a month and a half you'll be able to watch it on Peacock. Tuesday is the traditional Damn You Hollywood night, and we will be going with the #1 movie of the weekend, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was fucking dope. My kids loved it. So you can hear us gush about it on Tuesday. Well, you can hear us gush mostly about it. There's about a 10-minute segment in the movie that Robert Winfrey is probably going to rail against. Speaking of getting railed, Homicide, Life on the Street, Season 5. Myself and Jesse Starcher will be kicking off our 2 to 3 year long look into the great works of David Simon that he produced, starting with Homicide, Life on the Street, Season 5. And then Thursday, allegedly I'm threatening to do this at 10 o'clock. I may have to push it back depending on when we're supposed to be doing this work thing I have to be involved with. But that's going to be allegedly 10 o'clock for Resident Alien Season 2, Part 1, starring Alan Tudyk.
Why are you stealing mine and Eric's Thursday night spot?
What now? What is your problem?
Yes, BWSR Thursday nights at 11.
Yeah, and
we were there first.
So I won't use Twitch. Stop bothering me. Friday we have a refreshing of our Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. That's already a published show, but that never got a page. So it'll have one. The 15th. Yeah, 2 years of oops. By the way. On April 16th, we will be re-airing our review of Inferno from a few years ago, starring Tom Hanks. And then in the evening time, myself and Dan Lasby will be doing a alternative commentary for Errol Spence versus Eugenius Ugas. All right.
Real quick, I meant to ask you, what did you think of 273 last night?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a good night of fights. It's just I was not particularly coherent at times, and I had to I did not get a lot of sleep this week, and this was also a work weekend for me. So, up at 6, going to bed. I think I went out to go see Ambulance with the same friend that I watched Joey Janela with, and we didn't get done. I didn't get in the house until close to 1 because we saw a 10 o'clock show. Yeah, we went out to dinner and then we saw a 10 o'clock show, and it's a 2.5 hour movie. So I got home around 1, had to be up by 6 to be at work by 7. Saturday night I was out again, and then here I am with you. And I'm coherent, but I am desperately trying to end this show so I can go to bed.
All right, well, then let's go ahead and put a wrap on this. You can find me on the Broadhurst Watkins Sports Report, available here on the W2M Network, myself and Eric Watkins, Sports in Black and White. This week, coming up on BWSR, we have our NBA postseason preview. We cover Omega Ball, which just debuted on Fox Sports 2 over this past weekend, 3-team soccer, basically. Let's see here. What else do we have? Talks about opening week in Major League Baseball and assorted other random various sports related things on there. Life is Like a Game Show. This week starts the first of 2 episodes dedicated to Family Feud. This particular episode will cover all the hosts not named Richard Dawson or Steve Harvey. So that'll be this week on Life is Like a Game Show. And then right after we finish here on TV Party Tonight's The Indysiders, I reset and get ready to do Point of Viewer with Eric Watkins as your host. I am traditionally a disembodied voice. However, I am embodied on this show as we continue the greatest sports movie of all time tournament, the Round of 32, with special guest bracket producer Randy Isbell of the R&R Sports Report, klcz.com, out of Lewiston, Idaho.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us here on TV Party Tonight. He's Harry. I'm Mark. Be well, be safe, and behave.